Today's devotional is from Matthew chapter 1. Now, Matthew chapter 1 has both the birth of Jesus, the virgin birth, so we should think virgin birth when we think of Matthew 1. There are only two chapters in the New Testament that talk about the virgin birth. That's Matthew 1 and Luke 2, I guess, 1 and 2. So Matthew 1 we should associate with the virgin birth. Also, you might associate Matthew 1 with this genealogy of Jesus. Luke has a genealogy too. Luke's genealogy goes backward from Jesus all the way to Adam. Matthew's genealogy starts with Abraham and then goes to Jesus. Matthew's genealogy is divided into three groups of 14. So, verse 17, all the generations from Abraham to David are 14, from David to the deportation to Babylon are 14, from the deportation of Babylon to the Messiah 14. Now, in order to get that, Matthew has omitted some names that we can find, in the Old Testament genealogy, but there's a reason for that number 14, and that is that Matthew wants to make it clear that Jesus is the Messiah. He is the son of David. Now, here's what's going on here. The letters David in Hebrew are DVD, Dalet, Vav, Dalet. And we are somewhat, I like the fact that we have separate symbols for numbers than we have for letters, but back then they didn't have separate symbols for numbers and letters. And so the letters also served as numbers. And so if you take DVD and convert them to numbers, you have 4, 6, 4. If you add up the number of David's name, therefore, it's 14. And so this dividing of Jesus' genealogy into three segments of 14 is meant to shout out, he's the son of David, he's the son of David, he's the son of David. Of course, the first verse tells us that, and being the son of David is important because David is the king, and so if you're going to have a king of Israel, it should be a descendant of David. Jesus is, of course, the Messiah. In Hebrew, that's Mashiach. You might know in the Greek of Messiah is Christos. So the word Christ is the Greek version of Mashiach, which is Messiah. And it means anointed one. Many Jews were looking for an anointed king to come and kick the Romans out of Dodge. Now, not all Jews were. Not all Jews, I don't think, were expecting a Messiah. Those Jews that were expecting a Messiah were expecting a human king to kick the Romans out, a political figure. They were not expecting God to come down to earth. That's not what they were looking for in a Messiah. They were not even expecting I think there's a small sliver of evidence that there might have been a few people who thought that a heavenly figure was coming down, but that's even debatable. The vast majority of Jews who were expecting a Messiah were looking for a king, somebody who would politically, a human being who would rule Israel. Of course, they got 2.0. Well, they got infinite 0.0 with Jesus. He was much more than they were looking for in a Messiah. And of course, being the son of Abraham is important because he is a Jew. He comes from the line of Israel. As you look at these names, there are some important names. This middle paragraph here is the kings, a lot of the kings of Judah. And of course, we have some famous people up here in the first paragraph too. We have Ruth, we have Jesse, and so forth. And of course, Judah, tribe of Judah, is the line of the kings as well. There are some women who are mentioned in this genealogy that's significant. We have Ruth mentioned, we have Tamar mentioned, we have Bathsheba mentioned. Where's Bathsheba? The wife of Uriah, she's called. And of course, Mary is mentioned down here. All of these women, I think there's a message here. All of these women are women that probably, if you were to say this is what the perfect genealogy of Jesus would be, given their way of thinking at the time, they probably wouldn't have picked these individuals. So Tamar, you know the story of Tamar? She dresses up like a prostitute in order to get Judah to fulfill his obligations. Ruth is a Moabitess. She's not even an Israelite. The wife of Uriah, of course, you remember Solomon had an affair with her and had her husband killed. And so I think one of the things that we're to take away from this is that, of course, God uses everybody, that he even uses the people that we don't think he should use. But also there's a positive evaluation of the role of women, in the genealogy of Jesus. There's a positive evaluation of foreigners, Moabites, strangers, immigrants, those sorts of things. And of course, Mary, no doubt there was in Nazareth. I don't think that they were married when Mary got pregnant, And so this fits with one of the themes of Jesus, which is that God came for those who are marginalized in society. In fact, when we get to the Gospel of Luke, we'll see even more than those who are maybe in the mainstream. Well, in the last part of the chapter, we have the birth of Jesus. And of course, it takes place before she's married to Joseph. He is unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, which speaks positively of him. Of course, we have a dream here. The Lord speaks in a dream. And one of the special features of Matthew's gospel, Matthew, more than any other gospel, talks about the fulfillment of the Old Testament. This took place that might fulfill what was spoken to the Lord by the prophet. Of course, if you go back and you look at the context of this in Isaiah 7, it had one meaning in its original context. When Matthew interprets the Old Testament, he reads it in what's called a sensus plenior, a fuller sense. He gives it more meaning than it had to begin with, an extra meaning. This is the second meaning, the far meaning. There was original meaning to Isaiah, which was the near meaning. This is the far meaning. And of course, the word Emmanuel means God with us, and Jesus is still God with us, as we'll see when we get to Matthew 28. Lo, I am with you always. So there you have it, a little bit of Matthew chapter 1 as our devotion today.